on level.
Discovery, roger. Go for deploy. Everybody in the shuttle program to clear the go for launch. Roger. Nice to be in orbit. We have followed in their footsteps to get us where we are today.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Kennedy Space Center for the launch of Crew 2 to the International Space Station as we get ready to make history once again as we fly the crew up on a previously flown spacecraft and booster, that Crew Dragon and Falcon 9. And it's kind of cool. This Crew Dragon, it's the same one that Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley flew on that very first Demo 1 up to the International Space Station. Now, I'm sure you probably heard that we're going to have to delay a day. We're not going to be able to launch tomorrow morning, and although the weather's probably going to look great here at the launch site, we're worried about those downrange winds and wave heights in case of an abort should that happen. And as soon as this front gets through, it's going to be absolutely beautiful on Friday morning, and we're going to come out and do it again. All right. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce NASA's acting administrator and a great guy, Steve Jerzik. Steve?
Hey, thank you, Bob, and thanks for everything your team is doing to get ready for the launch, and actually get ready for all the launches here out of the multi-user spaceport at Kennedy Space Center. So thanks, Bob. As Bob mentioned, we got some inclement weather offshore, unlike a robotic mission where we just really need to focus on weather here at the launch site. For a crewed mission, we need to look downrange and make sure weather's good for a launch escape, a potential launch escape, and recovery of the crew. And so we'll be scheduled to go on Friday. Weather looks better on Friday, and it'll be at 5:49 a.m. I met with the crew last night. They are ready to go. I asked them what they look forward to most in the mission, and they said launching and getting up on station and getting to work. And we also talked about some of the things they're going to do, like EVAs to install new solar arrays on station, which is going to provide additional capability for the ISS. I could not be more proud of the commercial crew program and the SpaceX team and the NASA team and what they've been able to do to enable reliable, safe, effective transportation to and from station. Third launch in less than a year. Demo 2, Crew 1, and now Crew 2, and looking forward to a great launch on Friday and bringing the Crew 1 home next week. It's been a long haul, but having this capability is really important for ISS to enable the research and technology development that we need to extend capabilities in low Earth orbit. But ISS is also part of our Artemis plans, and to do the research that we need and develop the technology for Artemis, for our sustained lunar missions, and then eventually for a Mars mission. The commercial crew is enabling both commercial LEO activities and will enable Artemis. We were going to launch on Earth Day. Tomorrow is still Earth Day, and I just wanted to mention the great work that NASA and our international agency partners do on using the unique vantage point of space to gather data on the Earth and study the Earth. I know it's a priority for this administration and for the world for addressing climate change, and NASA has a big role to play in that. President Biden called the team at JPL early this week to congratulate them on Ingenuity's first flight, the first controlled, powered flight of a vehicle on another planet. And he told the team that his grandson asked him that when was he going to travel to Mars. So that's something really important that we do, right? We enable commercial activities in space, we demonstrate leadership, and we inspire the next generation. So that was really a great conversation between President Biden and the Mars Perseverance Ingenuity team out at JPL. So Crew 2 is another exciting milestone, not only for the ISS program, but for our Artemis plans. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Hiroshi Sasaki, the Vice President of JAXA.
Thank you, Steve. I'm Hiro Sasaki, Vice President of JAXA, responsible for human space flight and space explorations. I'm glad to come back here from last November. First of all, on behalf of JAXA, I'd like to express my appreciation to all people who have been working for Crew 2 launch under the severe COVID-19 situations. And last night, I spoke with Aki Hoshide, Japanese astronaut. This is a third flight of him, and he is ready for the launch. And he, as well as I, is so excited that the Japanese astronaut Soichi already on board, and Aki will meet together at the ISS. And he will work as a commander for the space station. And I hope he will co-create the fruitful outcome with international colleague astronaut from NASA, ESA, Russia. And I believe the international partnership will bring the more result from the ISS for the humankind. And it is also important for the space exploration. I'm looking forward Crew 2 launch and wishing the great success. Thank you very much. I would like to introduce Frank, ISS program manager, very important person for this mission.
Thank you very much, Sasaki-san. Thank you, Steve, Bob. So yes, we are very excited and happy to be here, of course, the first ESA astronaut that will fly on a U.S. commercial crew vehicle, Crew 2, the Dragon. I would like also to thank the NASA teams and the JAXA teams that have brought us here. So thanks a lot, guys, for doing all that work for us. It's an exciting time for us, of course. We will have 4 USOS crew members now permanently on orbit of the ISS, meaning that we will have much more time to do research, science, but also technology development that we will need for the future of the Artemis program and for the future of exploration of our solar system. We will also be able to execute during this mission a whole slew of experiments for our partner agency CNES, the French agency, that is helping us as well implement this mission. We will also do other technology items. The 15th of July, also the MLM will launch, the Russian module, and it will be attached to the MLM will be the European robotic arm, something that we were looking forward to fly since a very long time. And Thomas will also be involved in the activities, the commissioning activities of the European robotic arm. And again, it shows the strength of the partnerships that we have across the ocean and with our Russian colleagues. So yes, we are very happy. We are excited to be here. We are looking forward to this launch, but not only to this launch, we will also have Matthias Maurer launch in fall this year on another Crew Dragon capsule. And when he will be on orbit of the ISS, Thomas will also be still there, and he will be the commander of the mission. So it's a great event for Europe to have an ISS commander together with another ISS crew, ESA crew member there. And finally, next year, at about the same time as now, probably we will have Samantha Cristoforetti also flying to the ISS. So for the first time, for 1.5 years in a row, we will have ESA crew members on orbit of the International Space Station. So it's great to be in this position. It's a great time for human spaceflight and for exploration. And at ESA, we are really looking forward to work further on these topics, not only on the ISS, as Steve mentioned, but also on the Artemis program and on future exploration to the moon and onto Mars. Thank you very much. And sorry, yes, I would like to introduce one of my colleagues. I would not say former colleagues, but I still want to fly as well. But Tracy, I was in training many years ago together with Tracy. We met a lot in Star City. So Tracy, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, just like their Falcon 9 rocket and their Crew Dragon capsule, all 4 members of Crew 2 have flown before and have proven through their performance that they can and they will get the job done. Shane, Megan, Aki, Thomas, all four of them have a wealth of spaceflight experience and some of the best personalities in our Corps today. And we take delight in watching them launch and continue on with their mission. Of course, our hearts go with them on board as our hands support them here on Earth, and our minds are locked on both places as we're thinking about them throughout. And I am excited for them personally. I wish them well. I consider each one of them a close friend, and one of them's even my neighbor. And I can't wait to see them in space, and I look forward to talking to them while they're there. And above all, though, I'm very privileged to be here representing our astronaut corps alongside my colleague and friend, Jasmine Mogbelli. She's one of our best, she's one of our brightest, and she's one of our newest. And so with that, I'll hand it over to her.
Thanks so much, Tracy. Those are very kind words coming from you, one of my personal mentors here in the Astronaut Corps. Thank you all. If you can't see it behind this mask, I've got a huge grin on my face. I'm so excited to be here. On a personal note, the last time I watched a launch from the Cape in person was back in 2006, when I was just dreaming of becoming an astronaut myself one day. And so I think some things are similar, you know, the excitement and the buzz in the air, but I've also gained a different perspective. You know, back then I was watching 7 astronauts who I didn't know, and they were kind of unreal. They weren't real humans to me. Now I'm watching Shane, Megan, Aki, and Thomas launch, and as Tracy said, these are our friends and our colleagues, and really our family. And so it puts a whole different perspective on things. I also have gained perspective on how much it takes to fly humans in space and keep them up there 24/7 living and working, and the thousands and thousands of people that takes, and their focus and vigilance day in and day out. I've really been impressed with that, and it makes it all the more exciting to watch these 4 launch into space and perform some incredible, exciting research and experiments while they're up there. So I wish them a very safe flight. I'm excited to watch their expedition, and we'll be extremely excited to watch them land safely back here on Earth in about 6 months. And with that, I'll hand it back to Colonel Cabana.
Thanks, Jasmine. As they said, you know, we have great pride in the crew, and crew flights are different. Anytime a rocket leaves this launch pad out here, it's pretty special, but it's even more special when we have crew on board. And, you know, speaking of crews, I was looking, and I think if those guys back out for any reason, we got 4 right here that are just, we'll go anytime. Hey, with that, we'd like to open it up for questions. Let's see, where's the mic, and who's going to go first?
Good morning. Eric Von Egg at WKMG TV, the CBS affiliate here in Orlando. Thanks for doing this, guys. Bob and Steve, I think you know this better than anybody, for that matter. So many of us who've covered shuttle many times. It wasn't necessarily the weather that caused the scrub often. It was the vehicle, as we know, a very complex machine, older machine. Here's my question. How do you feel on launch day now with this vehicle? You know, we heard Shane talking about how technologically advanced Dragon is compared, well, he didn't compare it to the shuttle, but I'm comparing it to the shuttle. When you wake up on launch day, how are you feeling that it's not going to be this vehicle, considering the newness and considering, I guess, the simpler design?
So, Eric, I'll speak from my point of view. I was confident regardless of what vehicle it was. When we get ready to launch humans into space, we have great faith in the vehicle that they're riding on, and we know that it's going to perform well. And when we have scrubs, we scrub for the right reasons. As far as reliability, you know, I think SpaceX has proven they're pretty darn reliable with the number of launches that they've had on the Falcon 9. They're getting ready to have the 10th flight off one of their boosters here that flew recently. So, you know, it's a great vehicle. We have a great partnership. I think one of the things that came out of the flight readiness review you know, we weren't talking, it's not a NASA, a SpaceX saying things. It's the team saying we. They don't say SpaceX, I did this, or NASA, I see this. It's we. And we are working very closely with SpaceX to ensure that, you know, when we launch, we're doing the right thing. We got a safe vehicle, and it's really important. As far as the complexity of the two vehicles, obviously the shuttle was much more complex than a capsule. But the computer systems on board Dragon and the automation, it's a lot more automated than the space shuttle was. And you know, there's pros and cons. It's going to be, I just think we got an outstanding future in front of us when we look at all the spacecraft that we're flying. You know, it's pretty amazing when you think, you know, we've got, we're going to have Orion, SpaceX with Crew Dragon, and Boeing Starliner here soon, later this year, flying its operational test flight, and Crew hopefully later this year. You know, they have that dissimilar redundancy, but, you know, 3 American spacecraft, all different, all flying crews to space, and I believe there's going to be more to come. You look at Blue Origin with their suborbital vehicle. They want to be orbital also. Sierra Nevada with cargo to the International Space Station. They'd like to move that to become a crew vehicle one day. I think this is just an absolutely exciting time for America's space program and for what we're doing. Anything you want to add to that, Steve?
Yeah, just real quick.
Stations. Question for Steve Jurzik. In recent days, Yuri Borisov, Russian Deputy Prime Minister, suggested that Russia will exit the ISS partnership as soon as 2025. What discussions have you had recently with Roscosmos about their continued participation in the ISS or the ongoing negotiations to barter commercial crew seats for Soyuz seats on future missions?
Yeah, so first of all, we have still have a very, very, really strong relationship with Roscosmos and Russia on ISS. It's important and it's critical for the continued safe and effective operations of ISS. So that's number one. Number two is I know all the partners, including us, are looking at the future of ISS and what we might do together on ISS or in LEO, and haven't had any discussions with Russia or Roscosmos on their plans, and they'll do their work and decide what they want to do, and we'll make our decisions on our side with our partners. And then, yeah, we're looking forward to getting the implementing agreement, the final sign-off from the State Department, and getting that draft to the Russians, and negotiating the crew swap on where they'll be flying a cosmonaut on a commercial crew flight, and we'll be continue to fly an astronaut on Soyuz.
All right, my question is for Steve. Gio Benitez with ABC News. Good to see you again. I should have just had you say there. Mr. Administrator, you know, I think that for a lot of Americans, they don't understand just how much research happens aboard the ISS. So I wonder, Mr. Administrator, what project specifically you're most excited about with Crew 2?
Really great question. So I'm a technology guy, right? So I ran the Space Technology Mission Directorate before I became Associate Administrator. And so it's really interesting. I mentioned earlier about the solar array upgrades and the EVAs are going to do to upgrade the power capability of stations. So those solar arrays were actually funded by the Space Technology Mission Directorate when I was running it, the rollout solar arrays. And it's a really cool design, right? It uses carbon fiber sheets that they can roll up, and the strain energy of those carbon fiber sheets actually deploy the solar array and form the 2 tubes on either side. And so it's great that we're able to demonstrate that technology on station for future NASA applications. The other thing I'm really excited about is the medical research that we do on station. Because not only does it help us understand the effects of the space environment long term on our astronauts and how to mitigate those effects, but we're also doing research on station to advance medical research here on Earth. So one project they were talking about recently was the research with the ability to change the delivery method of drugs and make the delivery method easier. And it's really effective to do that research in the microgravity environment. Also, treatments for various diseases. So I know the medical research is really important, not only to understand, how to keep astronauts healthy and productive on long duration spaceflight, but also for treatments here on Earth and curing diseases here on Earth.
All right, thank you so much.
Marcia Dunn, AP for Mr. Jerzik. Will the Crew 1 still be coming home on the 28th, or does that get bumped a day because of the one-day launch slip? How will that coincide? And NASA and SpaceX are going to be swimming in used spacesuits after all these flights keep racking up, and they're custom made for each person. So what's the plan? Museums, personal wardrobes? I mean, what's the plan for all these spacesuits?
So the ISS team met this morning, and the plan today is to bring the Crew 1 crew back on the 28th. So we're holding the 28th date for Crew 1 return. And on the spacesuits, I don't know. Maybe I would like one, right, to check out. But it's a great question. I'll get back to you on that. I'm not sure what the plan is for the suits.
Hi, thanks. Amy Thompson with Space.com. So this is also for Mr. Jerzik. This is the second flight where you're going to have an international partner. So I was just wondering, what is the importance of that, especially moving forward to Artemis, where it's going to be a big international partnership?
Yeah. So hey, it is the International Space Station, right? We would not have the space station like we had, and it's the way we planned it in the early 90s, right? Without our Canadian, ESA, Russian, and JAXA partners, and so. It is part of the collaboration to fly crew from all agencies to the ISS, and this is part of that overall plan that we're executing. You know, we always said we're returning to the moon, or going forward to the moon, with our commercial and international partners, and so you've already seen that with the Gateway, right? We've got the International Habitation Module and the robotic arm from ESA and JAXA, and the robotic arm from the Canadians. We're looking for how we might develop further capabilities with international partners and commercial partners on Gateway. And now we're starting to engage in surface systems, and what are the surface systems we need for a permanent presence on the moon, as well as what do we need to demonstrate the technologies and capabilities in orbit and on the moon for a human mission to Mars. So the underpinning of ISS has always been international collaboration, and that'll continue throughout the life of the program. And then our success in Artemis will be through collaborating with our international partners as well as our commercial partners.
Hello, Issam Ahmed here from AFP. It's again for the acting administrator. So the last administration did, for Artemis, set a goal of 2024, and we don't hear too much about timeline these days. What is the sort of current state of play and your discussions with the administration, and how you feel about your budget? What are we thinking right now in terms of timeline? Is it closer to that or further away?
Yeah, so first on the budget, we feel really good about our budget. We got about a 6.3% increase over what was enacted by Congress in this fiscal year, about $1.5 billion increase across all the mission areas at NASA. So feel really good about the president's top line budget that was rolled out a couple of weeks ago. On the timeline, we're doing a study right now, an internal study right now, to look at the timeline of missions beyond Artemis 2. So we're still trying to hold the Artemis 1 uncrewed test flight of Orion and SLS this calendar year. That will be very challenging. In fact, had a very successful Green Run hot fire test at Stennis, and they're very close. They've gotten the SLS core stage out of the test stand and hopefully on the barge today, and the core stage will be here at Kennedy Space Center and right over there in the VAB next week. And that's the last hardware element for that Artemis 1 mission. Artemis 2, the crew test flight in 2023, and then it'll take us probably a few months to conduct the study and review and lay out the missions beyond Artemis 2. Having said that, you know, in the Human Landing System contract, the request for proposal, we had a goal of having the HLS ready to land astronauts on the moon in 2024. SpaceX, their bid They said we believe we can land in 2024, but we know how difficult these human spaceflight system developments are. We'll be tracking their progress along the way and see if that's still possible, as well as the other systems that we need to do that first crewed mission to the surface and back. But along the way, we will always focus on safety, never compromise safety for schedule, just like we did with commercial crew and all our programs. It's possible, but it'll be very, very challenging.
Hello, Stephen Clark from Spaceflight Now. My question is for Frank Devin. You mentioned the European robotic arm launching this summer from Baikonur. It's been on the ground for a long time waiting to fly. Are there any activities planned for Thomas Pesquet or any of the cosmonauts to do any activations of the arm after it gets to the station? And what, given it's been so long since it's been developed, what sort of applications and purpose do you see for the arm going forward throughout the rest of the station's life?
Okay, thank you. Yes, the aim is to start the commissioning of the European robotic arm in the increment of Thomas Pesquet, but also on the flight after that when Matthias Maurer will be on board. What we have currently scheduled is the activation and some checkout of the IVA equipment by Thomas, and then a couple of EVAs where our Russian colleagues will install the arm, do the external work that is required to do the commissioning of the arm with Matthias from the inside supporting the robotic operations. And then afterwards we are also looking to see if Matthias can do an EVA associated with one of the first operations activities that the arm will do, basically installing some scientific payloads on the outside of the Russian segment. In the long-term future, the European robotic arm is part of the Russian segment, so we are discussing with our Russian colleagues what are future applications for that. We are talking especially about installing scientific experiments at the outside of the Russian segment, but also relocation of some modules are also part of the operational tasks that the ERA will execute. And that is in the next 1 to 2 years. Then it will depend on the success of the commissioning, the success of those first tasks, and to the work together with our Russian colleagues, what then the future plans are of ERA.
Jeff Faust of Space News. A follow-up for Steve Jerzik on the earlier question on commercial crew bartering. It's my understanding that it's probably too late now to get a Russian cosmonaut onto the Crew 3 mission this fall, so I'm curious what NASA's plans are for filling that fourth seat on that mission. And then also, do you expect a need to work out some sort of deal to get an additional Soyuz seat because of that delay, or will Mark Vande Hey's potentially extended stay on the station negate that? Thanks.
Yeah, so we haven't worked through all that yet, right? We haven't completely given up on having a cosmonaut on Crew 3, but at this point, given the schedule, it'd be really, really challenging to complete all the training, get the suit done, fitted and done for a cosmonaut on Crew 3. So Crew 4 is looking more likely right now. And then based on that decision, then we'll figure out who will fly in the seat for Crew 3, whether it'll be a cosmonaut or somebody or another astronaut or one of our partners. And then we'll work through whether there's an opportunity for Mark to extend to a year, or we need to do something else to ensure that we have crew on the USOS for safe operations.
Hi, Thomas Perkar for NASA Spaceflight. A question for Steve. With SpaceX launching Crew 2 this week and Crew 3 later this year, they've ended up a little bit ahead of Starliner as far as crew rotation missions. My question is, are we going to expect a stretch of Starliner missions to sort of catch them up to Crew Dragon as far as their crew rotation flights go, or will the two vehicles continue to sort of alternate once Starliner is operational? And what's the status of contracting additional missions to both SpaceX and Boeing after the initial commercial crew contracts? Thanks.
Yeah, so our plan has always been to alternate Dragon and Starliner missions. We may revisit that with a delay in OFT 2 and CFT1. But right now, our plan was always to alternate missions. And then, that's forward work to determine how we acquire seats after these initial contracts with SpaceX and Boeing. So we haven't had those discussions yet, and eventually we'll get there and determine an acquisition strategy and move out.
Thank you. Ken Kramer again. Probably for Steve Jerzik. Can you talk a little bit more about the cargo delivery contract for Artemis to follow up on the human lander contract? When do you expect to award that? And talk a little bit about the details, and when do you want them to land? Would you want them to land before the astronauts on Artemis 3 or whatever mission they launch on? Thanks.
Yeah, so we have awarded what we call the cargo delivery contract for Artemis. It's been awarded to.
I'm talking about on the land.
Oh, HLS?
Yes, the unmanned lander.
Oh, the unmanned lander.
Right. You were going to have another contract for a lander to support the humans on the moon, right?
Oh, so yeah, okay. Thank you. So our plan right now is to leverage the Commercial Lunar Payload Services IDIQ contracts and look at those contracts as developing more capable landers to land cargo. So, for example, the Viper mission, pretty big rover, right, to go down into the permanently shattered craters and try to characterize how the water is bound with the regolith. We're going to obtain the lander for Viper through the Commercial Lunar Payload Services. So that's one route that we hope, as our industry partners evolve their capabilities to larger landers, we can use those larger landers to deliver things like Viper and eventually cargo. Another option, which we haven't decided on yet, would be go out with an RFP and unique contracts for that. But we're hoping to evolve the Commercial Lunar Payload Services IDIQ contractors to be able to evolve to those larger landers that we need.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to have time for one more question and then a wrap-up. Thank you.
Hi, this is Issam Ahmed from AFP. This is a question for Frank. NASA recently mentioned that for the Artemis program, they'd be keen to send the first person of color as well to the moon. And in the current crop of ESA astronauts, we don't see any people of color, and I'm not sure if that's ever been the case. So is this also a diversity? Is it also a priority for ESA?
Diversity is a great priority for ESA. We have recently launched a new astronaut selection campaign that we have kicked off about a couple of months ago, and the vacancy notice is actually open. Diversity is on the forefront of that ESA astronaut selection campaign. We look, of course, to have more women in our astronaut corps because today we only have Samantha Cristoforetti, and so we need indeed to make a step forward there and to have a more diverse astronaut corps. But we're not only looking at women, we are also looking at other aspects of diversity. And for the first time as well in ESA, we are doing a feasibility study and a project where we are looking if we can recruit a person with a disability, with a physical disability, that can become a professional astronaut. And so for that we will have, of course, to work together with our international partners, because it's very important for us that this person can fly in all safety to the International Space Station, not only when he's on the International Space Station, but of course also here on the launch pad, if there would be an abort, if there would be a rapid evacuation. As Bob and Steve said, safety is paramount in our endeavor, so we will need to make sure that all this is happening in the right sequence. And this astronaut as well should be a professional astronaut, so it's not somebody to fly and just be on the space station. It should be a professional astronaut that can execute all the tasks that all professional astronauts are executing in the space station. So I think we are the first space agency, at least, to open up our core to this type of diversity and elements, and we are very proud of it, and we will see where we get. It's the first step. We don't know if we will succeed, but at least we are willing to make the first step and to study it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you all for joining us this morning. You know, as I reflect on the last year, it's been a really challenging year and a really difficult year, but we've been able to accomplish some really great, amazing and great things over the last 12 to 15 months. I could not be more proud of the NASA team, along with our other government agency partners, our commercial partners, and international partners. You know, we launched the rover to Mars, and we landed a rover on Mars, and we flew a helicopter for the first time on Mars all this year. We launched an Earth science mission, the Sentinel-6 Mike Freilich mission with our European partners. We had a great core stage test, the Green Run Hot Fire, about a month ago down at Stennis. I was down there for that, for the 8-minute plus hot fire test. Everything went really well. The data looks great, and the stage is coming here for continuing to integrate the vehicle for Artemis 1, and then, of course, 3 crew launches. It was May 22nd, I think, of last year, where I was actually chairing the flight readiness review for the Demo 2 launch. And then I was here for the November Crew 1 launch, and now for the Crew 2 launch. I'm looking forward to a great launch on Friday and a great mission, and for the safe return of the Crew 1 crew next week. So again, thank you, Bob, and the team here, and thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning.